Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to VTP Stage 2 online technical Tuesday coaching call 196 for the 16th of June 2026. I hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying a good start to the week. Hope you're enjoying these rather eventful markets. I've had a couple of tech issues this morning, so I am hoping that if you're here in the room that you can see the slides and you can hear me okay. If you could confirm that, I'd appreciate it, just to make sure the tech's working in our favor before we push on. That would be beneficial. Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Excellent. As always, you are very welcome here. Just remember that you're always responsible for your own trading decisions. All right, sterling. So I'm going to start with FTSE here, which I know we normally don't do on stage 2 call, but I still stand by my plan that we are in a coiling up triangle pattern there. Now, normally you would be saying that is a continuation pattern. We would expect it to continue longer, and it could do that. My view is that we'll get no real move on that until the by-election's done. We have had a little bit of moves, but I think part of that is relief on rally, but equally, whilst it's a relief on rally for most sectors, what you have to remember is the FTSE is also made up of quite a lot of oil companies and quite a lot of defense companies. So, if there is a real end of the war, that doesn't really bode well for either of them. So, that's why we're mashing around here, aren't we? But I think we get a bit more clarity once we get that by-election out of the way at the end of this week. Okay, so yeah, interestingly, we gapped up, kind of relief on, and then as you said, oil and defense. Whoops, no, we don't. Bang, drop our way down there. How's that reflecting sterling? Well, no, cable. If you just look at that itself, okay, on the weekly chart, that has really been kind of what you might say 132 to sort of 132 to 137. We've mostly been in a kind of like a 500 pip range there for getting towards a year now. That's what you might look at there as okay, not a great trend, but you're taking bits of swings. That's about as good as it goes. And we're closing up there now. Daily chart, we're beneath the averages. There is clearly some sort of support there, but as I said, the last few days has seen a little bit of sterling relief, but I personally, as I said, I think that is more to do with dollar weakness. Okay, that kind of there's nothing terribly exciting. As I said, pound against yen, it is grinding its way higher, but I wouldn't exactly get terribly excited about that. We talked a little bit yesterday about pound against Swiss franc, how we had manipulation happening, okay, at the start of the conflict. We popped up, gone a little bit sideways, and now last week what we did do is we broke above it, and we broke above the weekly 50 period moving average, which was not been above since since the end of March. So 15 odd years, as I said, 15 odd years, 15 odd months, it just feels like 15 odd years. That's where we've broken above there. And on the daily chart, that's where you can see that we've kind of broken out there. I'd be looking at that to say, well, actually, is that a little bit of a daily flag that is kind of building up there? Maybe you can see that. Let's just see it this other way. All right, maybe that is a little bit of a daily flag building up. I thought we might get a little bit of a lower drift, but maybe that's what we see. Maybe that is that sort of Swiss franc weakness. Okay, we just sort of talked a little bit there at the moment. Okay, if the Swiss are determined to hold their interest rates at flat or go negative, whilst everyone else has been raising theirs, that would imply a bit of a sell-off in Swiss franc. But you might want to watch this to see if that basically takes its way off and heads its way forward. Pound against New Zealand dollar is just terribly messy. All right, pound against Australian dollar, that was just a great trend. That was that sterling weakness, Aussie strength, and I wonder if that is now starting to sort of come to a bit of an end as well. We kind of flushed those recent lows there, and I wonder now if we're just, as I said, a little bit of that Aussie weakness that kind of see how we popped up and put in that there's a bull flag, and we've worked our way up there, haven't we? We're pulling back again, but I wonder if we're going to get another sort of, back above 190. If we get above 190 and hold at that at the end of this week on daily and weekly, that's more an indication of Aussie weakness, I think, because as I said, sterling's not exactly great. but we'll have to see how that plays out by the end of this week. But it is, as you can see, it has been grinding its way higher there so far. If we look at euro against sterling, weekly chart, I've said this before, it looks like a descending triangle there, with a base there around about 86.25. If we go down to the daily chart, see how every time it comes down, bullish engulfing. Okay, it's also inverted the pin bar. Okay, you've got this was a bit of a strain. I remember that stuff kind of flushed and then pushed. You've got here kind of engulfing candle. Okay, let's see, necessarily engulfing candle there, but it's clearly, you can see that kind of 86.20, 86.25 area. There is support there. Okay, why there? I don't know. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's not. That is clear. I don't understand why 86.25. The others might know, but the thing I kind of look is that every time it's come down and bounced, each bounce has been lower, hasn't it? All right, there is definitely sort of support there. Okay, or there is definitely sort of working its way down there. And so I wonder if if we're going to over the summer sort of work our way like this. That's what I'd be looking for on the daily chart. See if that particularly plays out. Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's draw it to a close there. I hope that helps you. I hope that gives you a little bit of help, a little bit of insight. All right, so it is an interesting week. Okay, busy week, lots of UK news, lots of central bankers speaking, everybody having throwing their twopenny bit in about the peace deal. Okay, so as always, make sure, remember that you're on top of the news flow, on top of your order flow, and on top of your risk management. All right, have a great trading week, everybody, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Cheers.